Namaskar, welcome to Ekaksha. I am Nipadas. Today I will start the second part of the first English chapter of class 10, A Letter to God. মৰমৰ ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকল, আজি আমি দশম শ্ৰেণীৰ ইংৰাজীৰ প্ৰথম পাঠটিৰ দ্বিতীয় খণ্ডটি আলোচনা কৰিব ওলাইছোঁ। Children, in the last class, we read about Lencho and his fields, how he was hoping for it to rain. And it did rain, but the rain changed to a hailstorm and his crops were completely destroyed. Lencho and the members of his family were very sad. They were heartbroken. They didn't know what to do. They felt helpless. আমি লাষ্ট ক্লাছত লেঞ্চৰ বিষয়ে পঢ়িলোঁ, তেখেতৰ খেতি পথাৰৰ বিষয়ে পঢ়িলোঁ আৰু কিদৰে শিল বৰষুণে তেওঁৰ খেতি পথাৰসমূহ সম্পূৰ্ণৰূপে ধ্বংস কৰিলে। And in this part, we will read that Lencho writes a letter to God. So what did he write in that letter? This is a very interesting question that will come to your mind. And you will get the answer once we read the lesson. So let's get started. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house, here, solitary house means the only house, the single house. And obviously, by now you know this house refers to Lencho's house. In the middle of the valley, there was a single hope, help from God. So Lencho and the members of his family were very sad as their fields were completely destroyed. So they thought that they would die of starvation. So they had only one hope. What was that? Help from God. ইয়াতে এটি একমাত্ৰ নিৰ্জন ঘৰৰ কথা কোৱা হৈছে আৰু ঘৰটো কাৰ আছিলে? লেঞ্চৰ। তোমালোকেতো জানাই সেই ভেলিত মাত্ৰ এটাই ঘৰ আছিলে and it belonged to Lencho. And when his crops were destroyed, তেওঁৰ যেতিয়া খেতি পথাৰ ধ্বংস হৈ গ'ল, তেওঁলোকৰ এটাই মাত্ৰ আশা আছিল। সেইটো কি আছিলে? যে তেওঁলোকক ভগৱানে সহায় কৰিব। Solitary here means নিৰ্জন. Don't be so upset, even though this seems like a total loss. Remember, no one dies of hunger. So who is saying this? Lencho is saying this to the members of his family. So here you will get to know that he's trying to console them. He's saying that please don't be sad, don't be angry. Nobody dies of starvation. That's what they say. No one dies of hunger. So আমি দেখিলো যে লেঞ্চোৱে তেওঁৰ পৰিয়ালক সান্তনা দিছে যে তোমালোকে খং নকৰিবা, দুখ নকৰিবা. No one dies of hunger. All through the night, Lencho thought only of one hope, the help of God. So that night, Lencho only thought about God. He thought that God would surely help him. সেইদিনা নিশা লেঞ্চোৱে অকল এটা কথাই ভাবিলে যে ভগৱানে তেওঁক নিশ্চয় সহায় কৰিব. That was his last hope. Whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. Conscience means the moral sense or the inner sense of right or wrong. So what did he think? That God knows everything, he sees everything. God even knows what's in our mind, isn't it? So he thought that God will surely help me because he'll understand my situation. So ইয়াতে লেঞ্চোৱে গোটেই নিশা অকল ভগৱানৰ কথাই ভাবি থাকিলে। তেওঁ ভাবিলে যিহেতু ভগৱানে সকলো কথাই জানে, বুজি পায়, তেওঁ নিশ্চয় মোক সহায় কৰিব। কনচিয়েন্স অসমীয়াত বিবেক। Lencho was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to ride. Lencho was an ox of a man. So here the writer compares Lencho to an ox, because just as an ox is very hardworking, strong, similarly Lencho was also a very hardworking farmer. ইয়াতে লিখকে লেঞ্চক বলদ গৰুৰ লগত তুলনা কৰিছে, যিদৰে বলদ গৰুৱে খুব শক্তিশালী ভালদৰে কাম কৰিব পাৰে. Lencho was also a very hardworking person. Lencho তেনেদৰে তেওঁ খুব কষ্ট কৰিব পাৰিছিল। তেওঁ তেখেতৰ পথাৰত খুব কষ্ট কৰিছিল। So the writer is comparing him to an ox. But still he knew how to write. Though he was a farmer, he knew how to write. Lenchoয়ে লিখা পঢ়া জানিছিল। The following Sunday at daybreak. Daybreak means dawn, early in the morning. He began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. So next Sunday, Lencho decided to write a letter, and he decided that he would himself go to the post office and post the letter. It was nothing less than a letter to God. So just imagine he is writing a letter to God. Next, দেওবাৰে কি হ'ল, ৰাতিপুৱাই সূৰ্যোদয়ৰ সময়তে লেঞ্চোৱে এখন চিঠি লিখিবলৈ আৰম্ভ কৰিলে আৰু তেওঁ চহৰলৈ গৈ নিজেই সেই চিঠিখন ডাকঘৰত গৈ পোষ্ট কৰিম বুলি ভাবিলে। আৰু চিঠিখন কালে লিখিলে? He wrote the letter to God. So now you will see, or now we'll get to read what he writes in the letter. So this is a very interesting part. এতিয়া আমি গম পাম যে তেওঁ ভগৱানলৈ কি লিখিলে। God, he wrote, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. So he wrote, God, if you do not help me and the members of my family, we will die of starvation. তেওঁ ভগৱানলৈ লিখিলে যে ঈশ্বৰ, আপুনি যদি আমাক সহায় নকৰে, আমি কি? We will go hungry this year. আমাৰ খাবলৈ একো নাথাকিব। Daybreak means সূৰ্য উদয়, সূৰ্যোদয়ৰ সময়। I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes because the hailstorm destroyed my crops. So what is he writing in the letter? He is requesting God to send him 100 pesos. In the last class, I told you the meaning of peso. It is the currency of many Latin American countries. So in order to sow his fields again, sow means when you plant the seeds. So he told God, to sow my fields again, I need 100 pesos because it will take time for me to sow my seeds. Then the crops will grow and there will be a lot of time till the crops are ready to be harvested. So until that time, he needs to look after his family. He needs to take care of his family. So he requested God to send him 100 pesos. আৰু চিঠিখনত লেঞ্চোৱে কি লিখিলে? তেওঁ অনুৰোধ কৰিলে যে মোক 100 peso পঠিয়াই দিব। He requested God to send him 100 pesos. কিয়? কাৰণ তেওঁ sow my field. sow মানে বীজ ৰোপণ কৰা। প্ৰথমে তেওঁ বীজ ৰোপণ কৰিব লাগিব, তাৰ পিছতহে শস্যবোৰ লাহে লাহে হ'ব, হয়নে নহয়? আৰু খেতি চপোৱা সময়লৈ মাজত বহুত সময় থাকি যাব, আৰু সেই সময়খিনিত তেওঁ তেওঁৰ পৰিয়ালৰ কথা ভাবিব লাগিব। He has to look after his family. So he requested God to send him 100 pesos. He wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside, and still troubled, went to town. So what did he write on the envelope? Usually we write the address to whom we are sending the letter. And see here, he is writing to God on the envelope. আৰু হে লিফাফা বা খামৰ ওপৰত তেওঁ কি লিখিলে? To God. আৰু চিঠিখন লৈ তেওঁ টাউনলৈ গ'ল, and he went to town to post the letter. At the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. So when he reached the town, he went to the post office and he put a stamp on the envelope and put it in the mailbox. So তেওঁ চহৰলৈ গ'ল, ডাকঘৰত গৈ, তোমালোকে চাগে জানা, পোষ্ট অফিচক অসমীয়াত ডাকঘৰ বুলি কয়। He went to the post office, got a stamp. Stampটো লৈ তেওঁ কি এনভেলপৰ ওপৰত, খামৰ ওপৰত লগাই তেওঁ চিঠিখন পোষ্ট কৰি দিলে। He put it in the mailbox. One of the employees is one of the person who worked in that post office, who was a postman. Postman মানে তোমালোকে জানা অসমীয়াত ডাকৱাল বুলি যে কয়। And also helped at the post office, went to his boss laughing heartily and showed him the letter to God. So when the postman went to pick the letters, he saw a particular letter that was addressed to God. He was very surprised and he also found it very funny. So he started to laugh and he took the letter and showed it to his boss. যেতিয়া ডাকৱালজনে চিঠিবোৰ লৈ আনিলে মেইল বক্সৰ পৰা আৰু তেওঁ এই চিঠিখন দেখিলে টু গড ভগৱানলৈ লিখা চিঠিখন যেতিয়া এড্ৰেছটো দেখিলে তেওঁ খুব আচৰিত হ'ল আৰু তেওঁ হাঁহি তেওঁ চিঠিখন তেওঁৰ বছ মানে ডাকঘৰৰ মুৰব্বীগৰাকীক পোষ্টমাষ্টাৰ বুলি কোৱা হয়। চ' হি টুক দ্য লেটাৰ টু দ্য পোষ্টমাষ্টাৰ এণ্ড শ্ব'ড হিম দ্য লেটাৰ। এমপ্লয়িজ মানে কৰ্মচাৰী। Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. And in his career, he had been working as a postman for many years, but he had never heard of that address to God. So he was very surprised. কেতিয়াও তেওঁ এই এড্ৰেছটোৰ বিষয়ে তেওঁ কোনো চিঠি তেনেধৰণৰ চিঠি পোৱা নাই। The postmaster, a fat, amiable fellow. So what kind of a person was the postmaster? You could be asked that question. He was a fat and amiable person. The meaning of the word amiable is friendly. He was a fat and friendly person. Also broke out laughing. So when the postmaster saw the letter, he also started laughing. যেতিয়া postmaster গৰাকীয়ে চিঠিখন দেখিলে তেওঁ হাঁহিলে। But almost immediately means at once, he turned serious. যদিও তেওঁ হাঁহিলে কিন্তু হঠাৎ তেওঁ খুব গহীন হৈ পৰিল। And tapping the letter on his desk, commented, "What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter." তেওঁ গহীন হৈ ভাবিলে এই মানুহজনৰ ইমান ভগৱানৰ ওপৰত বিশ্বাস আছিলে, মোৰো যদি এনেকুৱা বিশ্বাস থাকিলহেঁতেন। So initially the postmaster was very amused when he saw the address to God. But later on he became very serious and he was very impressed because the person who wrote the letter had so much faith in God. Amiable মানে বন্ধুসুলভ, immediately মানে ততালিকে। Starting up a correspondence with God. Correspondence means when you communicate with people by writing letters. চিঠি পত্ৰ লিখি যে আমি যোগাযোগ কৰোঁ তাক correspondence বুলি কোৱা হয়। So the postmaster was very surprised. Wow, this person is writing a letter to God. He's trying to start a conversation or correspondence with God. So in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea. Answer the letter. Here, shake means not to break. So the postmaster did not want to break the person's faith in God. So he thought that he will answer the letter. Postmaster-জনে কি ভাবিলে যে তেওঁ লেঞ্চৰ ভগৱানৰ ওপৰত থকা বিশ্বাসটো তেওঁ ভাবিলে যে সদায় যেন অটুট থাকক, সেই বিশ্বাসটো যে ভাঙি নাযায়, সেইকাৰণে তেওঁ ভাবিলে যে তেওঁ এই চিঠিখনৰ উত্তৰ দিব। Correspondence means চিঠি পত্ৰ। But when he opened it, it was evident. Evident means clear. That to answer it, he needed something more than goodwill, ink and paper. Goodwill means good wishes. So when the postmaster opened the letter and he read it, it became clear to him that only paper, pen and goodwill will not do. যেতিয়া তেওঁ চিঠিখন খুলিলে তেওঁ গম পালে যে অকল কাগজ কলম আৰু কি সৎভাৱনা হ'লেই নহ'ব। কিয় নহ'ব? কাৰণ লেঞ্চয়ে ভগৱানৰ পৰা কি বিচাৰিছে? 100 peso. So when he opened and read the letter, he realized that pen and paper was not enough, because when we write a letter, we need pen, paper, isn't it? Because when he read the letter, he realized that Lencho had asked God for 100 pesos. So if he had to answer the letter, he had to give him the money. Evident means স্পষ্ট, goodwill মানে সদিচ্ছা। But he stuck to his resolution. Resolution means firm decision. So the postmaster stuck to his decision. What was his resolution? That he will answer the letter. He will not shake Lencho's faith in God. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. Charity means when you try to help the needy people. So he stuck to his decision and he thought that he will help the person who has written the letter. But then he thought, how will I collect 100 pesos? So he requested the post office employees to give some money. He himself gave part of his salary. And he also requested his friends to give some money as an act of charity. So he decided to collect the money. So postmaster গৰাকীয়ে কি ভাবিলে যে তেওঁ সেই চিঠিখনৰ উত্তৰ নিশ্চয় দিব কিন্তু how will he collect the 100 pesos তেওঁ ভাবিলে যে তেওঁ নিজৰ দৰমহাৰ পৰা এটা অংশ দিব আৰু পোষ্ট অফিচৰ কৰ্মচাৰীসকলকো তেওঁ অনুৰোধ কৰিলে যে আপোনালোকেও কিবা এটা দিয়ক আৰু তেওঁ তেখেতৰ বন্ধুসকলকো অনুৰোধ কৰিলে যে আপোনালোকে কিবা এটা দান দিয়ক ৰেজলিউশ্যন মানে সংকল্প charity mane done. It was impossible for him to gather together the 100 pesos. Kintu 100 peso mane teo collect koriba, jugar koriba noarile. So he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. So he was not able to collect such a huge sum of money. So he was able to collect just more than half. So what is half of 100? 50. So something more than 50. He could collect more than 50. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature, God. So, তেওঁ কি কৰিলে তেওঁ যেতিয়া অলপ টকা তেওঁ যোগাৰ কৰিলে তাৰপিছত তেওঁ সেই টকাখিনি খামত সোমোৱাই দিলে আৰু এখন চিঠি লিখিলে চিঠিত মাত্ৰ এটাই শব্দ লিখিলে God. So, children, we have come to the end of part 2 of this chapter. I'm sure you understood it and enjoyed reading it. And we will do a recap now. So in this part, we read how Lencho thinks of writing a letter to God because he thought that that would be his last hope. That is help from God. So he writes a letter to God. He narrates everything that had happened to him, how his crops were destroyed. And he requested God to send him 100 pesos so that he could look after his family till the crops grows back again. So he took the letter to the post office and put it in the mailbox. When the postman took out the letter, he was very surprised and he was very amused because the letter was addressed to God and he showed the letter to the postmaster. Even the postmaster was initially very amused. He started laughing, but then he turned serious and he was impressed by Lencho's complete faith in God. So the postmaster thought of answering the letter. And to answer the letter, he had to give him 100 pesos. So he thought of collecting the money by asking the post office employees to donate some money. He himself gave part of his salary and he also asked his friends to give some money as an act of charity. So now, to check if you have understood, I'll ask you a few questions. Who or what did Lencho have faith in? Lencho had complete faith in God. What did he do? He wrote a letter to God. Who read the letter? The postmaster read the letter. What did the postmaster do then? The postmaster thought of answering the letter. But to answer the letter, he needed 100 pesos. So he asked the post office employees to help. He himself gave part of his salary, and he also requested his friends to donate some money as an act of charity. He collected the money and put it inside the envelope with a letter with a single word, God. So, children, we have come to the end of part 2 of the first chapter. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. So, see you again in the next class where I will discuss part 3 or the last part of this story. Hope you enjoyed the class. See you in the next class. Until then, thank you.